Before William Hazlitt came along, literary criticism was, well, it was a pretty stuffy academic affair. But this one guy, a major figure in the Romantic movement, decided to just tear up the rulebook. He made this wild argument that criticism shouldn't be about cold, hard analysis. Instead, it should be about passion, about personality, and about what it really feels like to be human when we experience art.
So let me ask you this. Can criticism actually be an art form in itself? I mean, today, I think most of us would probably say, yeah, sure. But before William Hazlitt, that answer was not obvious at all. He was one of the very first people to pick up a pen and really prove it could be. Okay, so to really get why Hazlitt was such a game changer, you have to picture the world he walked into. Back in the 18th and early 19th centuries, literary criticism was super rigid and formal. Think of it like a science, right? It was all about following the rules, meeting classical standards, and staying totally objective. A critic's personal feelings, they weren't just ignored. They were seen as completely irrelevant. And then Hazlitt comes along and basically starts a revolution by just throwing out that old rulebook. He swapped detached analysis for pure passion. He replaced impersonal rules with deeply personal experience. His core argument was pretty radical for the time. He said that your own feelings when you read a book or watch a play, they aren't a distraction from the meaning. They are the meaning. And this right here brings us to the absolute heart of his philosophy. For Hazlitt, art wasn't some object you dissect from a safe distance. No way. It was an experience you had to live through. And criticism, well, criticism was the art of sharing that experience with as much passion and honesty as you could. Just think about how wild this was back then. To stand up and say that a critic's subjective, personal feelings were central to understanding art, that completely shattered tradition. Hazlitt wasn't just analyzing text from some ivory tower. He was inviting readers right into his own intellectual and emotional journey with them. This whole idea really comes down to one core concept he pushed in his work, The Plain Speaker: sincerity. This was his big call for raw, unfiltered authenticity. He argued that writers and critics needed to drop the pretense, ditch all the academic jargon. He believed they had a duty to just be honest and write from the heart. He didn't care what you were supposed to think. He wanted to know what you really thought. So where did Hazlitt put this new personal philosophy to the test most famously? Shakespeare, of course. But instead of just going over the plot points again, he got right inside the characters' heads. He treated them like they were real, complex, and honestly often very troubled human beings. Let's take Hamlet, for instance. For generations, critics had debated the structure of the play itself. But Hazlitt, he was much more fascinated with the structure of Hamlet's mind.
So, in his book, Characters of Shakespeare's Plays, Hazlitt makes this amazing argument. He says that Hamlet's famous indecisiveness isn't just a gimmick to move the plot along, it's actually a mirror reflecting our own human condition. I mean, have you ever felt completely paralyzed by a tough moral choice? That's what Hazlitt honed in on. And in doing so, he made a 200-year-old character feel incredibly modern and relatable.
And he didn't stop with the male heroes. Hazlitt also used this groundbreaking psychological lens on Shakespeare's female characters, and he saw them in ways that were frankly revolutionary for his time. Yeah, he looked at Lady Macbeth, and he didn't just see a simple villain or some sidekick to her husband. Nope, he saw the engine of the entire story. He recognized her agency, her incredible strength, and her resolve. For Hazlitt, she was this deeply complex figure who was challenging the conventional gender roles of his era, and he was not afraid to say it. But Hazlitt didn't just look to the past. He pointed that same sharp personal lens right at the intellectual giants of his own time, and, in the process, he captured the very soul of the 19th century. In his amazing collection, The Spirit of the Age, he painted these vivid and often brutally honest portraits of his contemporaries. He celebrated poets like Wordsworth, but he could also be a fierce critic. For example, he saw Lord Byron not just as a brilliant poet, but as an aristocrat who was just kind of playing at being a rebel. Each essay was this amazing mix of biography, literary analysis, and totally unfiltered social commentary. And that's exactly why this work is still so important. It's way more than just a collection of opinions. It's like an intellectual photograph of an entire era. It's Hazlitt's deeply personal but also incredibly insightful snapshot of the ideas and the personalities that were shaping the modern world. So let's wrap this all up. Why on earth are we still talking about a literary critic from 200 years ago? Well, because his ideas feel more relevant right now than ever before.
Hazlitt really did leave behind a huge legacy. He basically democratized criticism, making the case that everyone's authentic response to art was valid. He blended passion with smarts, connected literature to the messy reality of human psychology, and even used his essays to fight for social justice. What he taught us is that the way we talk about art is just as important as the art itself.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. We live in an age of just endless opinions, right? Star ratings, online reviews, instant hot takes on everything. In this massive flood of information, what can we really learn from William Hazlitt's simple, powerful call for criticism that isn't just quick, but is also sincere, thoughtful, and truly passionately